Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. President Trump is still in Europe and he's heading next to Helsinki, Finland for tomorrow's meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Yesterday, he spent some time with CBS Evening News anchor Jeff Glor at the president's golf resort in Turnberry, Scotland.
I saw the conversation you had with Jens Stoltenberg, which is a very direct conversation. As you approach the meetings with Vladimir Putin coming up, do you expect a similar tone?
I don't expect anything. I frankly don't expect. I go in with very low expectations. I think that getting along with Russia is a good thing, but it's possible we won't. I think we're greatly hampered by this whole witch hunt that's going on in the United States, the Russian witch hunt, the rigged situation. I watched some of the testimony, even though I'm in Europe, of Strzok, and I thought it was a disgrace to our country. I thought it was an absolute disgrace, where he wants to do things against me before I was even, before I was even the candidate. It was a disgrace. And then he lied about it. And, he, talking about shutting it down and we. And he says, oh, I meant the American people all of a sudden. He came up with excuses, I guess, given to a lawyer. But everybody laughed at it. He was a disgrace to our country. He was a disgrace to the FBI. So when I look at things like that, and he led that investigation, or whatever you call it, I would say that, I think it hurts our relationship with Russia. I actually think it hurts our relationship with a lot of countries. I think it's a disgrace what's going on. And then you look how, partisan it is. You look at what's going on where and they know that there's no way he can get away from those horrible texts that he wrote. So the other side knows, but it's a very partisan thing.
The Russians who were indicted, would you ask Putin to send them here?
Well, I might. I hadn't thought of that, but I'll be asking about it. But again, this was during the Obama administration. They were doing whatever it was during the Obama administration. And I heard that they were trying, or people were trying, to hack into the RNC, too, the Republican National Committee. But we had much better defenses. I've been told that by a number of people. We had much better defenses, so they couldn't. I think the DNC should be ashamed of themselves for allowing themselves to be hacked. They had bad defenses, and they were able to be hacked. But I heard they were trying to hack the Republicans, too. And this may be wrong, but they had much stronger defenses.
Who's your biggest competitor, your biggest foe globally right now?
Well, I think we have a lot of foes. I think the European Union is a foe, what they do to us in trade. Now, you wouldn't think of the European Union, but they're a foe. Russia's a foe in certain respects. China's a foe economically, certainly. They're a foe. But that doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean anything. It means that they're competitors. They want to do well, and we want to do well. And we're starting to do well. You see what's going on. We have the best employment numbers probably that we've ever had. Black unemployment is the lowest level in history. Hispanic unemployment, the lowest level in history, Jeff. Women unemployment, lowest in 66 years. Our numbers are great. Our GDP numbers are far greater than what they thought.
A lot of people might be surprised to hear you list the EU as a foe before China and Russia.
No, I look at them all. Look, EU is very difficult. I want to tell you, maybe the thing that's most difficult, don't forget, both my parents were born in EU sectors, okay? I mean, my mother was Scotland, my father was Germany, and, I love those countries. I respect the leaders of those countries, but in a trade sense, they've really taken advantage of us. And many of those countries are in NATO, and they weren't paying their bills. And, I, as an example, have a big problem with Germany because Germany made a pipeline deal with Russia where they're going to be paying Russia billions and billions of dollars a year for energy. And I say that's not good. That's not fair. You're supposed to be fighting for someone, and then that someone gives billions of dollars to the one that you're guarding against. I think it's ridiculous. So I let that be known also this time. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of anger at the fact that Germany is paying Russia billions of dollars. There's a lot of anger. I also think it's a very bad thing for Germany because it's like, what are they, waving a white flag?
We'll have more of Jeff's interview with President Trump in Scotland, airing tomorrow on CBS This Morning and later on the CBS Evening News, as well as our digital network, CBSN. We want to go now to Helsinki and CBS This Morning co-host Norah O'Donnell, who is heading up the network's coverage of President Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin. Norah, in this interview and really throughout the week, the signals that the president has been sending seem very much at odds with his own national security team.
You're exactly right, Margaret. This is a historic summit, and you hear the president's top national security advisors urging publicly and privately a more hawkish tone towards Russia. And yet President Trump continues his solicitousness towards President Putin, even once in the past couple of days saying that perhaps someday he could be a friend. When we've learned some interesting details about this meeting, I spoke with a top advisor to the president just this morning who said that one-on-one meeting with President Putin is scheduled to last about half an hour. It could even be longer than that. And President Putin has met with 3 previous U.S. presidents. Never before has there been a private meeting of this kind before. So this would be unprecedented.
And we know so many of the president's advisors admit they don't really know what happens when the president gets in the room because he decides his own agenda. But what are the expectations on what they're actually going to talk about?
Well, the president told our own Jeff Glor that he has low expectations, but that there might be some surprises. It's funny to hear him say that because there are incredibly high expectations by everyone else in the world just about what they're going to agree to in those private conversations. We know that President Putin has a lot on his agenda that he wants accomplished and that he wants from the United States. So after that meeting that they'll have together, there'll then be sort of an expanded meeting that will include their top advisors. President Trump will be joined by his Secretary of State. He'll be joined by his Chief of Staff, John Kelly, as well as his National Security Advisor. Then they may get into more specific substances. And then I think, Margaret, the only way for us to find out what was discussed in those meetings will be a press conference. And the U.S. has now confirmed this morning that there will be a joint press conference between President Trump and President Putin. If you look at what President Trump did after Singapore, it lasted more than an hour. Can you imagine such a long press conference between these 2 leaders and what they will say about the state of their relationship, about what Russia has done in the past to our elections, what they're doing now in terms of trying to attack America's democracy and our cyber infrastructure. So I think that's what we're all looking forward to is what exactly comes out of this meeting, whether it's a spectacle or substance.
Norah, thank you.